But one of the problems we've always had has not been experimental in the way that some people are. Some people will come at these things with no concept of what it should do. And like we said, they will patch it randomly, get a sound and use it. Whereas we cannot help but take an oscillator, put it into a filter, put it into an amplifier and bring it out, because that's what we've been doing. And we're kind of stuck in this old rut.
Yeah.
And you'll get somebody come along, like you said, a techno dance guy who doesn't know anything about it, and he'll patch it all wrong, but he'll get a weird noise that he uses. And that's great, because I can't do that. You know, the way I work now, it doesn't allow me to do it. I go, no, that's wrong. Of course it isn't wrong.
You're almost disciplined. Yeah.
You know, I've had people do that. They've come down and gone, oh, amazing, can I have a go on that? And you go, and I watch them and I think, well, what on earth are you doing? But they always end up with something interesting. There's always a sound that you think, wow, I'd never have got that sound. And that's what makes them, you know, their skill and their talent to create what they're doing. And that's what they should be doing. We don't want to make a book that tells you how to use it, do you? I mean, books on how to do it. All that's going to do is create clones.
Did they?
No, create clones of people creating boring music. We want people to take them and go, I can do something with that, and go out and do it. Well, I tend to find that people want to believe what they see in front of them. If they see a Moog in front of them, they will hear a Moog, and an ARP, they will hear an ARP. And when I was designing an update to an EMS Synth EA at the time, it had 3 filters in it. So I put a different version in each of the filters. There was a Moog, an ARP, and one of my own designs. And I would get people to try them out and tell me which they thought was best, and also what they thought the type of filter was, whether it was a Moog, an ARP. And invariably, people got it always wrong. That if there was a Moog filter but it was behind an EMS panel, they didn't hear a Moog filter. They didn't know what they heard a filter. In fact, they thought it was an EMS one because it looked like an EMS. So it told me something about the psychology of what people will want to believe. They want it to be true. It's a Moog, it sounds like a Moog. And it just shows how subjective these things are to us. There's a lot of history to it.
In fact, you know, with Steve having his synthy in 77 and me in 72, we've got certainly 80 odd years of experience of doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then all the Roland 700s, the Moog 3Cs and 55s that Steve was servicing when I was the collector.
Yeah.
All this knowledge of
when it came
things.
to getting sound and knowing what we wanted, we had actually heard everything that was out there.
Yeah.
We had access to all of the machines of the time. So when when a filter was made, it was made because we'd heard them all. And that's why the 100S is where it is now. It's a culmination of all those sounds for all those years. I don't think there's many people out there that would have had a Roland 700, a big Moog, and an ARP 2500 next to each other to compare them. Not many, a handful in the world, I dare say.
Yeah, we could patch out that into polyfusions, that the lot was there.
Yeah, and with Martin Newcomb in his museum, I've never, he had everything. I think he must have had just about everything there was, didn't he?
Yes. A few Russian ones he might not have had.
Oh, I think he had 11 big Moogs at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable.
When
Sonic
Moog
5, Sonic 6, the mini Moog, all of the little Moogs, everything.
Even had one of the last, was it the last 30 was made out of the brass plate?
He did, yeah. 25 or whatever it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yes. No, so we kind of were in the luxury of having everything to listen to know what we liked, to know the sound we were trying to get, and that, I think, probably was an advantage in a way, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Again, there's variations between the 55 and the 3Cs, aren't there? As they stabilise the oscillators to 921s from the 901s.
Oh, I remember you had prototype modules from Moog, didn't you?
Yeah.
Actual Vero board prototypes of those modulars. Yeah, at the time they were the earliest known modules ever made.
They're probably done on Moog's kitchen tables.
They would have been, yeah.
So between the experience of listening to the senses, just as important as the passion to want to do them, and not limiting. Well, what we liked was the power of what was in a synth in a small space, which is the sort of Euro type size is perfect. I still like the big 5U ones. Don't get me wrong. But I do remember once when Steve was looking at the Roland 700, looking at the sequencer, he almost despairing of the waste of space.
Huge, wasn't it? Yeah,
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. So that certainly wasn't going to be how the TH48 or the...
You could have fitted the whole Roland 700 into the sequencer space and had that power. That was the ridiculousness of it. Yeah. But people sometimes want to cover the wall with the synthesizer, don't they? Again, we know it's not what it does, but it looks good. It's lots of flashing lights and switches. That's what's wanted. In
many ways, it's good to have taken that small format, because obviously it seems that the Euro rack formats really did win out, didn't it?
Well, we've stood the test of time. I mean, if we'd failed a year or two down the line, we're still here, and the format has caught on. It's now the most popular format out there, albeit with slight variations amongst all the manufacturers. It is basically, we'll all fit into one case with a little bit of juggling around. So yes, we were, I suppose, right, a quarter of a century ago to go down that path at the time. Yeah. Well, it's easier now to have a front panel laid out on your home computer and sent, via the internet, and have a panel returned to you. In the old days, when EMS were making modules and we started, it was a physical thing to have all this done. Circuit boards were still being laid out with tape. You couldn't lay a circuit board out on a computer. I think I can remember when I was at Watson Marlow learning how to do that in the mid-90s. And that was the first thing that we did, wasn't it? Yeah. But now you could be home in your bedroom and make a module and just order the bits off the internet and have them arrive and make 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 10 of these modules, and probably never make any more, but then you become a manufacturer. But the hard part is knowing proper productioning practices of, like you said, they don't have to have a power supply, so there's no worries about mains compliance, no compliance to any regulations or anything. It's only working on 12 volts, so you can get away with anything. But to actually use the right wire thickness on a fuse and know what input rating you should have on this to make a product, it would be a different game.
Well, we're very pleased after all the tweaking that Steve said, it's got to do this, it's got to do that. Yeah. Until it arrived at its final state as we see it now.
But sales never represents effort we put into the complex modules. That's what it seems, isn't it? Yeah. It seems like I spend a week designing the oscillator and we've sold 2,000. We've sold probably 20 of these, and I probably spent 6 months on this.